Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express, the important news and editorial that would be relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 9th of September. The first news that I'll be discussing with you is about the New Delhi Declaration. India is currently holding G20 meeting, and in that meeting the plan has been carved out. The details will be released after the meeting, but as of now whatever details I have with me that I'll be sharing. Now, the other news is the meeting between the Prime Minister of India and US President. They're looking forward for progress in the defense ties. Third, that is African Union. Officially, it was announced that it has become the member of G20. So now G20 will be known as G21 with the inclusion of African Union. The fourth news, that is RBI to discontinue the ICRR in a phased manner from today itself. This is what the announcement has been made by the Reserve Bank of India. And the last is an editorial, why Delhi show the way, right? So this is about the progress that India has made in its G20 presidency. What was the hurdles that India has overcome and how India has set a precedent for making things more possible during the G20 presidency, holding several meetings, the SIRPA meetings, the TRACS meeting, and the various other meetings that took place in India. So we'll discuss everything in details. Apart from this, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further ado, let's get started. And before I begin this session, if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do hit that like button. Starting the session, and before I begin, just to tell you about the Nishchay All India Test Series program. This particular program is meant to conquer the part of UPSC CSE Prelims 2024. Through this test series program, you'll be provided 4,900 plus questions. Along with that, there will be a discussion that will take place. Demo test and free magazines will be provided for content enrichment. If you want to instantly get for the registration, these are the QR code. You can register from this QR code, or even you can visit our website to get further detail. So do check it out. This is a program that will help you for the part of the prelims examination. Starting that discussion with the first news, that is India ready with New Delhi Declaration, something important for General Studies Paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So as you know, from today, the G20 meeting has started in Delhi. The area is known as Pragati Maidan, and the venue where it is taking place is known as Bharat Mandapam. I think you must be familiar with this particular infrastructure. It has been there for quite some time, right? A Nataraj statue has already been carved out in this particular place to give it the part of the diversity of India that is evident from the infrastructure. Now, coming back to the news. A day before the G20 meeting, the Sherpa of G20, Amitabh Kant, why I'm just highlighting his name, because for many competitive examination, this can be relevant, right? So he said that New Delhi Declaration is ready and it voice for the global south and for the developing countries. Now, G20 leaders की अगर बात करें, leaders summit की, this is going to held by 9 and 10. ये 2 दिन रखे गए हैं जहाँ पे ये पूरी meeting होनी है. The leader across the 20 countries. Other than that, we have some invitee countries, the head of the particular institutions, they are also coming, and high-end security is also there across the city in Delhi. Now, the mega summit will be attended by more than 30 heads of the state, the top officials from the European Union and invited guests from the 14 head of the international organizations. तो ये कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको इनवाइट की गई है, and this will be something very important at this juncture where India will be forecasting its capabilities in terms of hosting such grand event and even setting a precedent of the India's presidency during the G20. Now, theme की अगर बात करें, theme is very, very important. I mean, for prelims also, if you're writing anywhere, possibly try to highlight the theme. The theme for this year is actually One Earth, One Family, One Future, or we call it Vasudev Kundubkam, right? It's a global roadmap for the sustainable, inclusive, and human-centric development. India's key priority for G20 presidency will be included with Sustainable Development Goal and the climate actions. Now, what are the priorities that has been set up by India? So there are 6 important priorities that is there. First, call for bold, sustainable and inclusive development. These are the part of even the New Delhi declarations that will be in detail reach out to the public domain. As of now, these are the only details that I'm sharing with you. Now, sustainable development goals, this is pretty obvious. जितने भी टारगेट हैं SDG की अगर बात करें, so SDG goal targets are actually set for 2030. So we'll be achieving that also. Multilateral Development Bank reform. This is again very important, which India has been a lot talked about. Digital public infrastructure with India's stake, that is things making possible to achieve the target. Women-led development and gender equality is again something which India has been pitching for quite some time, and even the green development. Now I'll tell you something more on the part of green development, because India has made several commitments to the international forum also, and even for the budget that was presented, the government has specifically highlighted about the green development. Now, what is green development in this context, and G20, how is it relevant? So India wanted to make the world the lead to the green development in context of the climate change and climate finance. To achieve the green development, the part of climate actions and climate finance is inevitable and very much required. So India has prioritized the green development, climate actions, and even climate finance with our priority, right? Beside this, the part of the sustainable development goal, climate actions that require finance, particularly for the developing and emerging market on the global south. Now, India has already set a target with green growth with the union budget that was actually there by the government. So PM Pranam, an important scheme set to promote the part of alternative fertilizers. Then we have 500 waste to wealth that is under the Gobardhan scheme that is promoting the circular economy, and green credit program for incentivizing the sustainable action. So specifically for mains, this is pretty important. If you're writing in mains, make sure you highlight this. Now, moving ahead, India-US to deepen progress and the defend ties. Something important for General Studies paper 2, that is effect of policies and politics for developed and developing countries on India's interest and India's diaspora. So the Prime Minister of India has met US President in India, and these two leaders are working towards deepening and diversifying the bilateral ties in terms of their defense cooperations. If you see India and United States, both countries are looking forward to augment their bilateral relations, right? And there have been several other engagement that is there. Even recent की अगर बात करूँ, jet engines को लेकर के हुई थी when the Prime Minister of India has actually visited United States. Now, apart from this, two leaders has deliberated on G20 presidency, the cooperations in the nuclear energy, emerging technologies such as 6G, artificial intelligence, and way for fundamental shape and the part of the multi-development banks. Now, India and United States have discussed the way to strengthen the comprehensive global and strategic partnership that span the seas to the stars. Now, defense corporations की अगर बात करें, particularly between India and United States, they have a joint statement on this. So the notification that was processed is actually in 29th of August, and this particular negotiations call for GE Aerospace and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited that will manufacture GE F414 jet engines in India, और United States ने 31 General Atomic MQ-9B 16 Sky Fighter और 15C Guardian के जो jets हैं, and even drones are also there. So these are actually welcomed by US, and they are online to provide that. The two leaders has also affirmed with a part of the importance in the quote supporting free, open, inclusive and resilient Indo-Pacific, something very important which India has been actually talking about, और US ने भी Indo-Pacific में prosperity neutrality की बात कही है. Now, India-US strategic partnership की अगर बात करें, the two leaders called for their governance to continue work on transforming the India-US partnership across the dimensions, reiterating their support to build the resilient global semiconductors and supply chain. The leaders re-emphasize that the shared value of freedom, democracy, human right, inclusion, and pluralism are the equal opportunities of citizens that are critical to success of the both countries. Now, if you look the things that both country has been focusing, there are different dimensions that the country is working. In terms of technology, there are quantum technology and the quantum computing that is also there, jointly funded for research product. Then we have defense, जहाँ पे रोड मैप मैंने आपको बताया किस तरह से आगे होने वाली है in terms of the tech innovations. Energy transition, which is again important for green tech, right? And the hydrogen breakout agenda to boost the part of low carbon hydrogen globally. Then we have trade with India and United States, where India now with the part of mineral security partnership in this space. NASA, ISRO are developing a strategic framework for human spacecraft by the end of 2023. And the new US consulate in Bangalore and Ahmedabad, that will be there. And aviation's Boeing in investing 100 billion to train 3,100 pilots in India in 20 years. So these are the part of the broader ties between India and United States. Now moving ahead, that is African Union to become a full-time member of G20. Officially, it has been announced that African Union is going to be the part of G20. Now, G20 will be known as G21, right? Let's see what official nomenclature is there by the agencies, but as of now, it is 21. This has been officially confirmed. Now, this is important for General Studies Paper 2, bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So during the inaugural session of the two-day event of the G20, see whatever I'm discussing today that is related mostly to the G20 because this event is such grand that the entire news focuses or somewhere in bit and pieces are covering the news only, right? So the Prime Minister has declared that the African Union has been granted a permanent membership of the G20 largest economy worldwide. This was an official confirmation that was made by the Prime Minister of India. The announcement marked the AU accession of the new member with a prominent organization. अगर AU की बात करें, इनके पास 55 nations हैं, that is entire coverage. Now, initiation process की बात करें, how it has actually started. The idea of AU joining G20 come during the recent meeting of the G20. The countries in the AU have made progress with the theme of 11 biggest economy in the world. This means to have say in the important global financial decision. Countries like Russia, United States has already said that the idea of the AU joining the G20 will be there. And Africa is growing with a fast economy with 6 of the fastest growing countries located there. Now, there's a war and shortage that was ongoing in due course of time. अगर बात करें African Union की, they have been discussing the idea with the fallout of Ukraine war, जिसकी वजह से काफ़ी ज़्यादा agriculture deficits and even for the supply chain there were a lot of problem that is there. Fertilizers की भी problem हुई African countries में. They called to end the violence and African Union chief has said that what is happening in Ukraine is a violation of UN Charter by Russia. So again, that is important. You have to take a note कि Russia ने जो भी चीज़ें की है, they have not made a consensus between the important forum, the decorum, the part of the charter, and even the international norm that was again violated. So there's an insecurity in overall what was done, right? And Ukraine has food security and the part of consequences that is facing with the part of African Union. This is what the chief has said. राइस एक्सपोर्ट बैन की अगर बात करें, फ्लेयरिंग द राइस बैन इन अफ्रीका ने कहा दैट दे वांट इंडिया टू सपोर्ट देम इन दैट पार्ट and African Union are planning to talk to Indian authorities that so that they can deepen with the part of India and provide with the part of the capacity building, and they find that India is a country that will help them to resolve this problem. Now moving ahead, RBI to discontinue ICRR, something important for General Studies Paper 3, that is Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. So the Reserve Bank of India has actually announced the discontinuation of incremental cash reserve ratio on September 8, 2023. Now this measure was actually aimed to absorb the surplus liquidity created by factors such as return of 2000 known to the banking system, right? So that was the main aim. Now, what is ICRR? इंक्रीमेंटल कैश रिजर्व रेशियो इसे कहते हैं. दिस वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड ऑन August 10, 2023 और आरबीआई ने बेसिकली मैंने आपको बताया द मेन aim is to absorb the surplus liquidity that was generated by various factors. उसमें एक factor है return of 2000 note to the banking system, right? The regulator, that is the RBI, by regulator I mean to say the RBI, has actually said that the ICRR was a temporary measure which will be reviewed on September 8, right? And this is employed during the period of characterized by excess liquidity in the financial system. Now, why was ICR needed? अगर बात करें ICRR की क्या ज़रूरत थी? So, like RBI announced that the temporary measures to absorb the excess liquidity from the banking system. The level of the surplus liquidity in the banking system has become returned for 2000 notes, and RBI surplus transfer the government pick up with the part of the government spending on the capital flows. उसके अलावा जो daily absorptions liquidity है by the RBI will be by 1.8 lakh crores, and ICR was expected to absorb 1 lakh crore of excess liquidity from the banking system. Now about the CRR, there's a concept which is there in the banking system. I mean, that is a tool that is used by the Reserve Bank of India. So this is known as cash reserve ratio, the minimum amount that the total deposit that bank has to maintain as a cash with the RBI. This is something an essential mandate to the banks. And it is an essential tool to maintain the health of the banking system. And bank cannot use this amount for lending or for any investment purposes. The current CRR stands for 4.5% of the particular holding of the banks. Now moving ahead with the editorial of the day, India's G20 presidency shows the way, something important for general studies paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So what I'll be discussing under this editorial, first the theme is about India's G20 presidency journey. How tough was the journey for India, because the geopolitical situation at this juncture was not good and even not stable. Russia Ukraine war के time में काफ़ी ज़्यादा problems भी face करनी पड़ी, creating the equitable multilateral orders and the way forward. Now if you see the current G20 meeting which is there at Delhi is 18th G20 summit, started with a positive note, जहाँ पे कोशिश ये की गई है कि जो bilateral relations है उसको strengthen किया जाए, and India is currently hosting with an aid and support and other part which is there by the United States and other member countries. This is therefore the time to access how we have learned and what is the multifaceted latest approach that India has actually come up with to accommodate the emerging power, right? And the exercise is necessary for Economic Steering Committee of the world. The G20 multifaceted carries heavy responsibility, especially the United Nations is no longer seen as a global problem solver, right? So definitely when India hold the presidency, बहुत सारे ऐसे problems थे जो India को face करनी पड़ी. They have come up with substantial progress. Even to a larger extent, the progress was made on various dimensions and issues. Tough journey rahi India ke liye during this presidency. International domestic problems was again prominent. It began with the two parallel crises, the overhauling of the COVID-19 pandemic and even Russia's Ukraine war that affected the economics and geopolitical issues. On pandemic issues, India has a head start managing the COVID-19 crisis as well as making pandemic preparedness focus on its presidency. The presidency last year was taken with the leadership position on digital inclusions, digital public infrastructure, and India's unique offering to G20. Now, Russia और Ukraine की war, this is something very, very important और इसकी बात करना काफ़ी ज़रूरी है because this will help you to understand how the things has worked for the global order, right? So, the Russia-Ukraine war was remembered as the year of Great Divide, developed by the एक्चुअली जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज थे उनके एक अलग व्यूज थे. डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज और डेवलप कंट्रीज के व्यूज में काफ़ी ज़्यादा अंतर था. द आइडियोलॉजी एंड द पार्ट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक नेसेसिटी वाज अ मेन कंसर्न. द रीजनल बॉर्डर डिसएग्रीमेंट वाज देयर एग्रीगेटेड बाय द पार्ट ऑफ लेजिटिमेट रशिया सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट. नाउ इंडिया हैज़ मेंटेन अ फाइन बैलेंस. इंडिया ने न्यूट्रलिटी मेंटेन की और इवन दे हैव आस्क्ड कि इस तरह के जो वॉर्स हैं उसकी सोल्यूशन सिर्फ और सिर्फ नेगोशिएशन है और कुछ भी नहीं. इंडियाज न्यूट्रल पोजिशन ऑन रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर हैज़ केप्ट the international equilibrium. Now, creating equitable multilateral orders, this is what India has been doing. So, effort was there for more equitable multi-order that continue for G20 presidency. by Brazil and South Africa. अगर बात करें India, Brazil, South Africa grouping की, it has already a trilateral agreement and a good portions were there overlapping with the G20 agenda. The G20 is not a treaty or alliance, it's a forum or a dialogue with the cooperation, and it is now a platform best suited to adjust and accommodate the world in the transition. So this is how the things are actually working in the right directions. Now the way forward or the conclusion, the event of G20 has been a great success for India. Now this is an evidential fact over the time with the meeting and other things that took place in India. It democratized the G20 process and intentions and necessity. बात करें पॉलिसी की, जो एडुकेटिव और ब्यूरोक्रेटिक इवन पॉलिटिशियन प्रिसाइडिंग ओवर द डेमोक्रेटिक और डोमेस्टिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन वाज देयर. इंडिया नीड टू बी मोर मटेरियल टू हैव अ ग्लोबल आउटकम. ये ज़रूरी है कि ग्लोबल influence and even for the part of rule-based order, India has set up precedent. This will definitely reflect in other meetings, in the forthcoming meeting that will be there. If they absorb well, the experience and even the G20 presidency will certainly take the countries and the coherent among that part. So this is how you have to proceed if you're specifically writing in the mains answer. Now moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is A. For second question, the correct option is A. Again, both the question, the correct option is A. Today's MCQ for practice is about the amendment to Constitution. There are a statement that you have to read that the some section of the amendable through the simple legislative process using the enactment of ordinary legislation to the Parliament. Some section are altered by adopting the amended bill, the Parliament, with the 2/3 of the majority of the present the voting. To be modified, several rules require only specific majority and also rectified by the state legislature at half of the states. So do check out for the correct option, which among the following is the correct one. You have to choose the correct option. Second is about the Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. It was established by utilizing the priority sector lending shortage. The second statement is that it will be used for agencies to build the urban infrastructure in tier 1 cities. The National Housing Bank manages it. So do check out for the correct option. Practicing a lot more current affair question will give you an added advantage in the upcoming prelims examination. We have a lot more other platforms where questions are published on daily basis. You can check out that as well. Now this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any query about the courses, admissions, test series, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching.